So after I walked out of the movie theater from watching the new movie Rise of Skywalker, the Star Wars movie, I sat in my car and I cried for 5 minutes. I want to tell you why, but I also want to warn you, there's spoilers ahead. The original Star Wars trilogy that I grew up with was firmly based in mythological roots. And I think that simple narrative of the hero's journey that was so much part of that original Star Wars trilogy was one of the strengths of the movie. And myth is powerful in that way because it brings us back to our humanity. It's something that unites us. We connect with these myths and folklores in many ways because they're not just about distant people in faraway lands, they're about us and what it is to be human. When I was a teenager and I got kind of immersed in Star Wars and researching it, I discovered that so much of the narrative structure and many of the concepts that George Lucas built Star Wars around were based in the work of Joseph Campbell, who was a comparative religion scholar and myth scholar, and a book in particular that he wrote called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. This is my copy that I purchased when I was 16 years old. I still have it, and I'm 43 years old at this moment. When I walked out of the movie theater of this screening of Rise of Skywalker, I was reminded of a particular passage that I've loved and underlined and written in highlight many times as I've read through this book, and I love so much, and here it is. It says this: "We do not have to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. Where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world." I love that mythological concept, and it is in many ways the essence of the power of storytelling and why we tell stories, so that we won't feel alone in the world, so that we can see that there are other people in other places having other experiences, even though they may seem on the surface to be very different. Those feelings and those experiences are very much universal into what all we go through. I loved Rise of Skywalker. The thing I loved about it, and I don't want to talk about the plot points and the characters and whether these three movies make up a cohesive narrative. I don't know, and honestly, it's not interesting to me to talk about or discuss. What's interesting to me is that they went back to that mythological idea as the conclusion, the way of wrapping up in many ways this set of films. Not only this trilogy of 3 films, but the 9 films in total made over 4 decades and 9 movies and all of this story. How did they choose to wrap it up? By referencing that most mythological of ideas, that we are not alone. And the 3 words that they used, which for me will now be forever connected to my love of Star Wars, and that I love that they brought in with such mythological force and power, is Rey calling out, her asking, "Be with me. Be with me." The movie starts with that from her, and then the conclusion, the finale of the movie is that. And in the moment in the finale where she realizes that on her own, perhaps, she is not enough, she desires and calls out to tap into something so much bigger than her. All of the Jedi and the teachers that have come before her, all of those people and their experiences and their wisdom and their strength, she calls out for them to join her and to bring their strength and their wisdom into that moment. And that's powerful. You know, Return of the Jedi ends that way, with seeing the multiple generations of teachers that have brought him, Luke Skywalker, to that moment. And that saying, that idea, the Force will be with you always. And I think this connects the idea, and it's a concept of, in many ways, what the Force is, because there's this discussion about what the Force is, but it's a somewhat nebulous concept and idea. What is the Force? Well, here it sheds a little bit of light on a component, a piece of it, which is the idea that all those who have come before you, they are with you. They are with you. You are not alone. That you can actually call out to the strength of those who have gone before you. You can say, "Be with me. be with me. And that in many ways, the power of the Force is about our willingness to tap into something bigger than ourselves. It's a powerful image to me. I grew up, my grandfather on my mother's side, his name was Paul Andrews. I didn't really know him. He died when I was very young. But he was born in Alabama. His parents were sharecroppers. They didn't have a lot of money. They were a poor family. But he decided at a very early age that he wanted to be a minister in church. And that's what he spent his life doing. But he wasn't one of those ministers that just spent his Sundays pounding on the pulpit and pronouncing judgment on people. He was out in the world. He was out with people, helping them, showing compassion and love, walking with them in their difficult journeys and bringing them in and trying to build community and make people stronger and help them grow together. I see a lot of his heart, the heart of his work in my mom. And I see it in me. You know, I'm sure that if Paul was around, there are decisions that I've made in my life that he would disagree with, but I know that he walks with me. I feel him and his energy and his spirit in my life, and his focus and the decisions that he made to make the world a better place and to help others. I feel it in my life in the way that I choose to live. And that gives me courage to feel that those generations walk with me. My son, my oldest son, Logan, is graduating from high school this year. And I have a lot of feelings about it. You know, there's part of me that would like for him to stay right here in our home where we can walk with him every day and be with him in things. But I also know that it's important for him to pursue the next stage of his journey, of his heroic adventure in life. And he needs to go out and do these things without us standing there next to him. But I believe in my heart that I will always walk with him, that I will always be part of his world, and that there will be strength that he will gain from those pieces of me and my wife and of my mom and my grandfather Paul that will be in his spirit and that will guide him and give him strength along the way. I think that's true of our culture as a whole, that, you know, so much of who we are today and the progress we have made and the growth that we have experienced as human beings, we have stood on the shoulders of others. We have learned from their strength. Were they perfect? Were they flawed? They were flawed. They weren't perfect. But they learned from the people that came before them, and we have learned from them, and they are with us. 1,000 generations live within you. And I think that's one of the beautiful messages of Star Wars in general, is this idea that you are never alone, that those generations before you, they are still with you, that the world that we see, there's more to it than even what we can feel and touch, and that we don't have to be by ourselves. It is the battle cry of everyone that sits in the 12-step program for addiction, whether it's alcohol or drug abuse or any other kind of addiction, that in those first 3 steps of the 12-step program, they admit that they of themselves do not have all the strength they need, but that there is a higher power that they can tap into, and they are making a choice to do that. They are calling out, be with me, be with me. And I think here's the beautiful news for you. Wherever it is you are in your life today, whatever you're fighting with, whatever your challenges are, no matter how alone you might feel, the truth is that there are people who stand with you, who stand behind you, who are with you. And even though it may sound strange or very weird, you actually have the ability to call out to them in those difficult moments and say, be with me. And to find that there is strength in that you didn't even know or realize that there was available for you. Mr. Rogers, who I love so much, talks about taking a moment and stopping and thinking about the people who loved you into being. The people who loved you into being. You may have been surrounded by people in your life who maybe were flawed and weren't perfect and made mistakes in their journey to love you into being. But there is something powerful, I think, in stopping and acknowledging the people that have led us to this moment and realizing that we're not alone and that there's great power and strength in that. So it gives me courage every day to think about my grandfather, who I believe is with me, who I believe will always be with me, and for my son, who is now starting his journey in the world in so many ways, that I will always be with him. And for you, that even when you feel most alone, to know that you can cry out, be with me, and that there is a force in the world, that in fact what the mythology and the stories of generations have told us is that we are not alone, that there are those that have gone before, that have journeyed with us. And where we thought to find ourselves alone in the battle, we will find that we are with all the world.